So we're going live now on Facebook in another few seconds, and then I will begin. A very good evening to all of you. Thanks a lot for joining us, all of panelists, and a lot of parents who are joining us now from across Mumbai currently to essentially join us for the topic of today's webinar, IB Education, the right choice for you. I'm very thankful on a warm Sunday evening from Bangalore to have the company of some very elite members, Ms. Cecilia Flores, Ms. Ashika Tenzin, Ms. Pravina Thapa, Dr. Pratibha Jain, and Ms. Priyanka Khurana Goyal, to be helping us to unmask a lot of myths around IB as a curriculum, and more importantly, help us to understand IB curriculum in a little better way, help to understand how DY Patil International School in Worli, Mumbai has been weaving this wonderful curriculum in their school over the last few years and helping a lot of parents and students make the right choice about this curriculum. I would want to have an introduction to our elite panelist, Ms. Cecilia Flores, who's been an educator at heart and is invested into the holistic well-being of all of her students. She's been teaching over the last 30 years around the world, joins us from Oman today, and has had the opportunity to work alongside children from more than 30 different nationalities from all walks of life. She also happens to be an author and illustrator for children's book and the co-founder of Kolistas Sitas. I apologize for not having spelled that as correctly as should have. She happens to be a firm believer that every child has the ability to do anything, but everyone has their own timeline to achieve the same. Please, Ms. Cecilia, wonderful to have you around all the way from Oman. We have Ms. Sheikha Tenzin, who is the academic director at Eva Patil International Schools. She has done her master's in microbiology, has over 25 years of teaching experience. She was an MYP coordinator at a reputed Ivy school, and she also is an online workshop facilitator. Visits IB schools as a team leader and specializes in teaching and mentoring and building up IB continuum schools across the country. We have Ms. Pravina Thapa, who joins us from Nepal. She's an education entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience in education, specializes in general education and special education from US and UK. Also happens to be a co-founder and academic director at Premier International IB World School in Nepal. Which is the first IB, PYP, and MYP school in Nepal. For the uninitiated, PYP means primary years program of IB, and MYP means the middle years program of IB. She is also on the board of directors at Premier Education Network, PEN, which consists of education institutions such as the Montessori Kinder World, a chain of Montessori preschools, Nepal Montessori Training Center, Premier International Institute of Education, and Jonkri, Nepal, and Teach and more. We have Dr. Pratibha Jain, who is the founder and CEO of Education Abroad Consulting. She leads a team with the aim to guide students to find the right academic match according to their aptitude, academic profile, budget, and career vision. She is the head of the career counseling cell at Deva Patil International School, a very, very critical aspect of the IB DP program. And I'm sure she would throw a lot of light on how IB as a program is viewed across the world, and a job alike trainer for South Asia's IB Schools Association. And we have Ms. Priyanka Khurana Goyal, who is an involved parent of DY Patil International School, a graduate from IIM Calcutta. She happens to be the managing director of Nomura Securities and has been recognized to be among the top 50 most powerful women in India by the Fortune magazine. It's lovely to have all of you around. And as I start the webinar, I extend a very, very warm welcome to all of our parents. Uh, we shall be continuing with our discussion across, but would open up for Q&A towards the last 10 minutes of our webinar, so that because we feel that we would have answered a lot of questions that prop up your mind. But still, if a few remain, please feel free to pop them up across in the Q&A button that you would see on our webinar or on your Facebook timelines, and we will pick it up to be answered by our panelist. My first question actually goes to Miss Ashika Tenzin, and if Miss Pravina Thapa also could help answer that. Now, does curriculum play an important role for the choice of schooling that a parent and a student undertake? Before we really move on to IB, I would want to really understand, does curriculum play an important role or not? Ms. Ashika?
Uh, I want to say that yes, it does play an important role. I would want to cite my example and my son's example in that, because I myself have studied the SSC board and the HSC board, and I have had my education through the Mumbai University. So, but then I got the opportunity to teach it in an international school. First at Masuri International School, then at École Mondiale, RBK International Academy, EduBridge International Academy, and now at DY Patil International School. So I I myself could experience my journey first in the difference of the different curricula. So I have myself studied in SSE, but I have taught in the CBSE, the ICSE, the GCE O level, the IGCSE, MYP, IBDP. So all these curriculum I have taught myself as a teacher. So I could see the marked difference in the methodology. And I, being a science teacher, science is similar, right? If you look at content, it is same. Circulatory system in SSC would be circulatory system in HSC, or in ICSC, CBSE. It is same. But how you deliver the program and how the different methodologies are used and how we are assessed, how we assess the students, okay, those are different. And how we focus on the skills while learning, it is not the content that we want the students to know, but also the skills that we could teach explicitly or implicitly through the curriculum plays an important role. So I feel yes, curriculum is there is a vast difference in all these curricula. I wouldn't say in terms of content, but of course in delivery and in the philosophy and the pedagogy, that is a huge difference. Now another example that I would want to also give is that of my son. I am myself an IB parent. So being a teacher, I knew that I did not get that opportunity to study IB myself. But if I could get that opportunity for my son to study, if not the whole of PYP or MYP or DP, if just grade 10, I think I would have been the biggest risk taker, just take out my student from grade 9 CBSE and put him in MYP, where the boy doesn't have any skills, nothing, but he is in there because I want him to do the IB diploma program, which would, shape him up, and he would give him an all-round development as a person, and help him with the life skills that we say that the IB program gives. So of course, there is a huge difference between not the content, but how you deliver the program in the different curricula. Over to you, Miss Parveena, if you want to
Absolutely
support
agree
that.
with you, Miss Ashika. But what I would also like to add on, without having to repeat everything that you've said, because I agree with every word that you just said, is first of all, what we need to think about is what is the purpose of education? Why do we want the students to go through 12 years, 15 years or more of school education? What is the purpose of it? What do we want to get at the end of it? Now the education, the need of the society is changing. Back in the day when we first started having schools, especially in, around India and Nepal, we're very much influenced by the British colonization. They established schools so that you could have people who could do jobs, not think creatively, not question the authority, but just do clerical works in factories and, in coal mines or just do mindless jobs. They just needed people who were literate enough to understand instructions and just follow instructions and be very disciplined in that very traditional manner. However, now the society is changing. The needs of the society is changing. And every day is such a new day. Look at us. I mean, who would have ever thought that we'd be having a meeting, and a session like this virtually? Our world has changed overnight just as a result of COVID, and it is going to continue to change in ways that we've never imagined. So the education system that we have in school, what sort of education system do we pick for our children, is going to decide whether we prepare them for the future or we continue to just, repeat things that we've done in the past and that might have worked in the past, but it's definitely not going to work in the future. So I really, really, really strongly believe that what we do in schools, how we teach, not necessarily what, because what keeps on changing, I think, as the years go by. Sometimes facts change as well, but how is what makes a difference. The skills that they learn and the attitudes that they develop in the process, as that embedded curriculum makes a whole lot of difference in how successful our children can be in the future. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Ashika and Ms. Pravina. My question to Ms. Cecilia, you've been teaching for over 30 years around the world. You've had the opportunity to work with children from more than 30 different nationalities, all walks of life. Do you really feel IB curriculum is for everyone? What skill set is best suited to be looking at IB as a curriculum for your child?
Well, hello everyone, and I'm happy to have this conversation. Just the fact that people is open to have this conversation is showing you the need of having a curriculum like this. Everyone could be part of the IB. One of the things that I love the most about the IB is the fact that they have a learner profile, where they are describing the student from different aspects. It's not just the academic, it's not just about the skills, it's a holistic education. So when you see, as an educator, when you are able to see a student as a whole, everyone can be part of that. So in my experience working in so many different areas with so many different kids, I can tell you that one of the ones that I enjoy the most, and when I see the kids that they have flourished the most, is with the IB curriculum, because they have the possibility to create something. It's like you just share with them infinite possibilities and you help them to develop their creativity. And that's something that not just one system can give you. The fact that people are willing to come and become learners, not just the students, but also the teachers, the administrators. Everyone comes in this point where people can have their opinions, their ideas, their skills, their knowledge, everything all at once, and everybody has a place. That makes room for everyone to be part of the curriculum, in my opinion.
Wonderful. I continue with another question to you, Ms. Cecilia. Everyone is talking about skill-driven curriculum and 21st century skills. Right as of now, Ms. Thapa also mentioned that. How does IB help develop those specifically from the curriculum?
Well, the thing is, education is a process. It's not just, it doesn't have an end. The day that you think that you're just going to achieve something and that you're going to get there, that's when it stops. So it's like a skill. When you learn to ride your bike, it's like you become better the more that you practice. Every skill, every thinking skill, every attitude that you develop through the IB curriculum is something that you're going to use in life. When you apply all these things that you have been learning in school and you see that you can apply that not just in math or science or English, but you can combine all of them and then you can create something new, is when you get the opportunity to see how it's a continued developing. It's like, I don't know if you have heard the quote, we're looking for progress, not perfection. I think that applies to the IB because it's a constant progress. It's something that we want to develop in the kids. The wish for them to learn more, to try to find another way, to know that there are more than one right answer to come to the same correct answer. So I think that's why you need to know that developing skills, it's an ongoing thing that happens in life. It doesn't stop when you reach to grade 12. It doesn't stop when you reach university. It's a lot. That's why you become a lifelong learner, because it's something that it keeps growing and growing as you grow. So
Ms. Ashika and Ms. Pravina, would you help break down the entire IIP curriculum? Because, what Ms. Pravina mentioned a little while back is schools in India and in Nepal. We look at a little larger Asia, Southeast Asia as well, where our schools, our generations have been very hooked on to the learning outcomes which are defined by results more. we look at India, the most important milestone is the 10th board examination and then the 12th board examination. And all the years essentially doesn't build up to that particular part. It is only the 10th that really matters and then the 12th that really matters. But as we know, the IB curriculum has various checkpoints. The IB curriculum has more milestones in how it continuously develops. All years essentially doesn't build up to that particular part. It is only the 10th that really matters and then the 12th that really matters. But as we know, the IB curriculum Miss Ashika and Miss Sabina?
We're getting feedback. I think you need to pause, mute Kushi M.
Okay, sorry.
I'm not sure. I have a feeling that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, Pravina, go ahead. Go ahead.
I couldn't really get you because I had feedback.
Can we have the question again?
Okay,
Yes.
so what I said, okay, let me repeat that question. What I asked is that, schools in India, even in Asia as well, the learning outcomes are often defined by the marks of the results that the child goes about achieving. That is also one of the key reasons why, India has, largely CBSE schools or ICSE schools. And the entire focus eventually drills down to the 10th and the 12th board examinations. That is also an extension of the British curriculum where IGCSE and the Cambridge examinations matter a lot. But the entire build-up of IB curriculum, the learner profile that we talk about, plays a very, very important role in how the entire learning and schooling of the child happens. Now, this is something that, at our experience at Eduscope, what we've clearly seen is that parents really don't have a deep understanding with. And somewhere around, as schools, we've not been able to translate and inform to parents about how IB continuously develops the child. What I would want you to actually throw light on is how does the entire schooling years of the child, IB continuously has those checkpoints and references to the child's development. I would also want Ms. Priyanka to pitch in as well as how she's been seeing the development of her own children when she chose IB as a curriculum as well. Ms. Ashika?
Okay. So according to what I would want to respond to this question is that in the IB, you have the primary years program, you have the middle years program, and you have the IB diploma program. You also have the career related program, but it is not so popular here in the Indian continent. So we have mainly the three programs of PYP, MYP, and DP. Now, the diploma program is very structured. Okay, it has subject groups. It has different subjects in those subject groups, and students have to study one particular subject in every subject group. Of course, there is a choice to leave group 6, which is the arts, and you could choose two subjects of group 3 or two subjects of group 4, depending upon what would you want to study in university or ahead in college. So DP is very structured. Now, from DP, if a school is a continuum school, a PYP, MYP, and a DP school, then how the curriculum is decided is that you do backward planning. So if you know that the diploma program requirements are whatever the subject content and the objectives of the particular subject, then you go down and you say, okay, in grade 10, what is required to be taught to students in the different subjects. So then you plan it that way. So some schools that do not have the MYP, they run the IGCSE program. But we do make sure that even though we are running the Cambridge program, we do not miss out the skills that we want to teach in those students. Okay, so we do focus on the language skills. So if you take an example of it, Hindi, French, language acquisition. Okay, though it is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 language acquisition, and we do not have different phases as we do in the MYP, but we do train the students in all the skills of the language. Though Hindi may not have, a particular skill, but we make sure that we are giving them all the skills of languages, that is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Okay, so we do take care of that. So you do a backward planning of whatever is required in the IBDP, what are the skills that, or what is the content that needs to be delivered in grade 10? And then again, you go backward, go down. If in grade 10, a student needs to understand these things, these concepts, then what are we going to do in grade 6, 7, 8? And then again, if a student has to be prepared for grade 6, 7, 8, then what are we going to teach in the lower classes in PYP from grade 1 to 5? And then again, if in grade 1, the student needs to be aware of these things, then what are we going to teach in the in the primary early years program? So this is how the planning does. So if you look at the curriculum of Premier International School in Nepal, okay, of the PYP, and if you look at our in the PYP in DY Patil International Schools, our program of inquiry would be different, but the scope and sequence that is required, the learning outcomes that is required for each of the subjects, you will find similarities, right? Because those scope and sequence, they are shared by the IB to us, and they say, looking at this, you create your own depending upon the students, how the students are, at what level the students are, and what do you think are important for your students. So that is how the primary years program, the program of inquiry is planned by the whole team. Okay, and similarly in the middle years program, if it is the MYP, then the whole of MYP is again a framework. It doesn't give you content. Yes, if you are going to do the MYP assessment, which is an examination in grade 10, then you have the topics. Okay, you have the topics and you have a broad content, but they do not tell you how much in depth are you going to teach. So that too, again, then you have to see how much depth does the student need to understand in order to be prepared for the diploma program. So the teachers are trained, and you have the coordinators also who sit together and plan and then decide the curriculum. So this is how the planning of the curriculum takes place in the IB. Pravina, you want to add something to that?
Sure, sure. I will take a very non-IB language. I think we've all grown up hearing this proverb that, you teach, you give a person a fish and you feed that person for a day. And you teach that person how to fish and you teach that, you feed that person for a lifetime. And in essence, this is exactly what IB does. In an IB education, when you don't just give right answers to the children, but you actually help them to identify, what they're good at, what they need support with, what they want to find out, how they want to find out, and carry it out. And in that process, learn different skills, learn different attitudes, and also learn, knowledge in different subject areas in that process. So this is, this when you view education in this sense, you truly understand that it's not just like a checklist, it's an ongoing process. When you teach somebody to fish, how well can they fish? There is a risk. Somebody might be able to, fish really well in a very calm, but they might not necessarily be able to fish well in a river or go ice fishing, right? So there are different things that you can learn as you start learning how to feed yourself for the rest of your life, how to fish for the rest of your life. And that's the same thing with education as well. We're teaching children to take care of themselves and take care of their loved ones and their community, in the long run. So the learning of these skills, learning of facts, learning of attitudes, it is an ongoing process. It is a continuous process. And IB really respects this, and it in its heart understands very deeply, and in its practice, shows that understanding that one task is not the end of the world. You go back and you reflect on it, and then you decide what else do you need to make changes so that you continue to grow as a learner and as a person and as a human being. So in order to support that's, we do a lot of things where we help the children to be reflective about their teaching and learning. In the background, what teachers do, in addition to what Ms. Ashika just explained, is there's something we call vertical and horizontal articulation, right? So you sit down and then you look at during a school year, when I have the child for this entire school year, when they go through different subject areas, what are the skills, knowledge, facts, attitudes that they learn in the process? What sort of experiences do they have? Also, we look at, from one year to another year, when the teachers change, the responsibility of grooming the child still falls upon the school, still falls upon the adults. So we look at during different school years, what are the things that the child is going to experience? What are the things that the child is going to learn? Have you provided ample opportunities? Have you provided a balanced opportunity to have balanced growth and development? So in the background, the teacher does this work. The whole this is one thing that I really love about the IB curriculum: collaborative working of the adults who help the children, to grow and to have that conducive environment to be the best versions of themselves. That was, in addition to Ms. Ashika. Anything more than that, I think it would be too technical. Thank you.
Very nicely put up, Ms. Ashika and Ms. Tata. Ms. Priyanka, would you want to really throw some light? You've been well educated yourself. You've been a very successful person in the finance world. Widely respected by everyone in the finance world and beyond as well. Being so knowledgeable, you would have spent a fair bit of a time choosing a school, choosing a curriculum for your child. What went through your choice sets as well as your mind to choose a school, and eventually when you chose DY Patil as well? I would want you to elaborate on that, because I'm sure that a lot of parents who are joining us and viewing us on Facebook would relate to how you've gone about your task for choosing the school.
Sure. Actually, like when we were deciding on whether to go for IB curriculum or the other CBSE, ICSE type of curriculum, so the one thing that was going on in my mind is, well, like I was part of CBSE for all my till class 12. Then I was in Delhi University. After that in IIMs. So like except for the IIM part, but before that, what was happening was we studied a lot. I used to be a very a good student, so I would study a lot, maybe do a lot of rote learning as well, got good marks, and because of that got admission into the universities where I got. But one thing which I realized when I joined work, so I joined Lehman Brothers from campus, and then it got taken over by Nomura. So when I joined the company, so the first 1 year that you have to spend is basically to unlearn your set notions. And what type of, and now I'm involved in a lot of hiring as well. So the type of people I feel are more successful in a job are not the people who have got a lot of knowledge as such, because what happens is knowledge keeps on changing, and these days knowledge can be easily seen on Google as well. But the type of people who are more successful are the one who can survive in any environment, because the environment keeps on changing. For us, like this year, obviously it was a very big change with COVID, but even like when you are in business, markets keep on changing, clients keep on changing, new requirement keep on coming up. So the kind of skill which is required the most is basically the person who keeps on learning according to the new situations that are coming, and the person who does not say, who never say die, basically. You are not looking for an outcome, you are looking for solution finding in different environments. And that is the reason, why I thought that IB curriculum, which is more practical knowledge, which is a different way of delivering the same subject, the same subject and same knowledge get delivered in a very different fashion. So when I see Yuvan's curriculum, we wish, like, if we were taught in the same way as well, because it is a lot more fun as well. It's not like, there is no burden that, I have to do it like this, and then I have to do rote learning, and then, give an exam in the initial years at least. So, and the change which I have seen in Yuvan is basically, the kind of risk-taking abilities which are there, I did not think that I had when I was his age. So, he would open up his toy, and because I want to see how it gets made, everything like, nuts and bolts, I want to see, how is the toy made. Then he wants to know, why is my drone flying? What is making it fly? And then he would see, if I put some weight on it, will it still fly? Why or why not? So those kind of questions are very interesting. And you can see, like, in a small brain, this curriculum, so not in a small brain, but in a small child, this curriculum really encourages creative thinking, encourages risk taking, and encourages the learner attitude. There is no, like, pass or fail. It's like, it's a process. You learn. So that is something which I found very, very interesting. And the way they do experiments all the time, that is again, like he at home also, he wants to just repeat that. He wants to do, baking soda and vinegar experiments. He want to, enjoy soap making. He want to understand how does oil become soap when you put like lye into it. How does that happen? So that is something which is very interesting. And, I think that we have made the right choice with DY Patil and IB curriculum.
Thanks a lot. I think you put one thing in perspective, that it is not really binaries that we're talking about of pass or fail, or if even in Indian context, the binaries of a choice of career being in engineering or a medicine, it goes far beyond. And the learner profile plays a very critical role in that. I would like to now go a little beyond and really talk about, maybe every one of us is mentioning, every one of us is living in the COVID world. It has made us at home, but also got us far more closer by the way of technology. Something that we are witnessing right now, that we have our panelists from everywhere. Barring a couple of you, all of us are from different parts of the country in the world. We have our attendees also from various parts of the country and world as well. And on that note, my first question to Ms. Praveena, research from leading institutions has shown that IB students are more likely than their peers to succeed in higher education, and more so from a global perspective, that it doesn't really go about limiting you to a specific choice of a career or university within your own country, but it opens you up to the entire world. How true is the finding, and what do you really think about it?
I absolutely agree with this, but I must tell you something. We don't have the IB diploma program in my school yet. We only have the IB primary years program and middle years program, and it's a matter of getting the license from the government that has slowed us down. So we didn't have 11th and 12th grade up until this year. We just started our 11th grade, which is Nepali national curriculum, because we still haven't received the license for IB diploma program. So our students have only completed IB primary years program and MYP program in the past. And it's only been 3 years since our students have graduated from our school, from the MYP program. But even with that, I can see that there's a good percentage of children, about 15% of our students go abroad to study. It's too young, I feel, but we still have students going to other IB schools after their 10th grade. And every student who's gone to other international IB schools from our school in 11th to 12th grade have received at least 50% scholarships, and they're doing really well. With other students who've gone locally as well, I have noticed that our children come back to us with wonderful stories, saying that I received 70% scholarship, I received 80% scholarship, and even after joining, their work is being shown as exemplary work to other students. And I think it is initially, as an educator who teaches in an IB world school, when children go to non-IB school, I get a little bit concerned for my students, because the culture of learning is so different. I still, but then I feel like it is true IB education when they can actually go and then assess what sort of reality they are in. What are the things that they need to change about the ways they're being assessed now, the ways they're being taught now, and what do they need to do to be successful in that environment and to thrive in that environment? And I'm so proud of my students, and I think it's primarily because of the IB values and the way that we teach in an IB world school, that they actually learn to analyze the situation and make changes that is required. And I think that is, beyond school as well. That's what's going to help them become successful in this, rapidly changing world around us as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. When we were growing up, give and take a few years between each of our ages. But when we were growing up in each of our respective cities, we had a very limited set of schools which were in turn offering an English medium education. As we grew a little bit towards our 11th and 12th, a few more schools came up, but the choice of schools was far more limited. When we went to college, yet again, we had just single digit 5 IITs in the country, 4 IIMs in the country for higher education, a bunch of RECs in the country. and a couple of some very nice engineering colleges or medical colleges as well. But what the globalization did, and more importantly, what the curriculum did, was open up some great choices to our children. My question to Dr. Pratibha, was actually counseled over a lack of students, placed over 30,000 students across universities in the world. How do university admission officers rate IB? Is there a distinct advantage of IB over a non-IB student? And I would want you to share, because eventually, particularly in Indian context, that continues to weigh heavily on the parents and the students' mind as to how well would the curriculum shape up my child's future and my child's higher education and the options thereafter.
Yes, definitely. I think IB prepares students to land with their feet running. Especially international students really appreciate the fact that the student is research oriented. They're capable of independent research. More than that, I think what distinguishes them is their ability to integrate learning from many disciplines. Today's world is not cubicalized. It's not isolated to just biology, just chemistry, economics. Actually, when they solve a problem, whether in the context of a class or an economics class, they have to integrate learning from across disciplines. And that is a very important part of university education. And the IB student somehow has already developed these skills when he enters university, and he's not based on I'm studying a statistics, therefore I should only answer from statistics. They bring in examples from across the board, because I've been a professor at UC Berkeley and at Delhi University, and you can see the distinct way in which their examples are from many, many disciplines. And I think this interdisciplinary approach is what the universities value. The technical academic program of it all could be universal. I could, all boards have to teach me the same definition. The academic grasp of a topic is probably universal. All boards have to be equally recognized by all universities. There is no one who will say, look, I'll give preference to A over B. But the student fits in better. As I say, they land with their feet running. They are able to, from day one, understand what is expected of them. They are literally global in mindset and interdisciplinary in thought. And these are the two skills which are really valued. And not only by universities abroad, I'm also part of a number of younger new age universities in India as well. And now that pedagogy, we used to think, oh, IB is a fit only for international and not for India. Even that has changed. In our latest universities, and I'm part of three think tanks of new age universities, we call them, they're absolutely looking at this student who brings a research capability on every topic. They're able to say, look, I learned friction. My teacher gave me two examples, but actually, even when I'm playing tennis, I look at my shoe and say, oh, that's friction. I'm changing my shoes when I play football, or I'm going to play cricket. I change my shoes, that's friction. No, this ability to relate a classroom theory to everyday life is really the skill which is valued. And that is valued at the university level. And as Ms. Priyanka said, even at work level, that it's not cubicalized. I can bring everything together to understand what is trade. It's a combination of biology, chemistry, physics, economics, international relations, diplomacy, culture, everything comes together. And this is the main skill set that really is appreciated by every professor and every university.
Thanks a lot. Ms. Cecilia, you've been teaching students for over 3 decades now, teaching across, multiple nationalities as well. Uh, do you feel that, the choice of this curriculum, particularly IB, does help the parents? Because increasingly a lot of parents would see in a span of 15 years of their child education shifting cities and perhaps countries as well. And the disruption that might bring in a child's education could be, could be at least reduced by the choice of curriculum and how it gets imparted across by the IB schools in particular as well.
Yes, I think, see, if we look back at the history of the IB, um, the original idea of the IB was a proposal of peace. And nowadays we live in a world that we need to try to work together to get it better. So when you are looking for something that is going to help in any area, you need to consider those things, because when parents are looking at, is this curriculum going to help not my student, my child to develop what they need, you need to consider that we are thinking in that global context. We are thinking in that area where it's not just your point of view or my point of view. And it doesn't matter if you're in China, in Mexico, in US, everybody can come across and somehow agree to disagree, but in a way that they are going to be looking for solutions, not going to be making the conflict bigger. I think that's one of the biggest assets of the IB, that they offer that training to the kids to express their point of views, to develop the skills of challenging each other in a healthy way, in a way that they are growing together, in a way that they are learning together. So yes, I think maybe I don't want to be biased, but having the opportunity to in different countries and having the opportunity to work with different systems, as a learner and as an educator, I think IB has given me the best rewards in life in general. So yes.
Ms. Ashtika, often enough it is, felt that IB, what really matters, what really is the most important element is the IBDP program, the 11th and 12th grade equivalent of the Indian schools curriculum. Uh, um, uh, Quite often, because MYP doesn't have an external examination right now, and that's why a lot of parents choose to drop it or consider IGCSE as an option. But a lot of parents feel that the real thing is IBDP and not really about all the other years of education. And hence, if I have to look at an IBDP school, if I have to look at an IB curriculum, I should look at an IBDP. Let my child go through the regular schooling. And when the grade 11 comes, that's when I should choose DP as an option. How true, how big a myth is this? I would rather prevent myself. I see Ms. Pravina having a very, very animated look. I know that as a parent as well. I know how it's a myth, but I still like you to answer that comprehensively.
Okay, so I have been in the MYP for many, many years, but here I am in DY Patil International School where there is no MYP. So I can understand, the difference. But I have also run the IB MYP with the IGCSE curriculum. I've done that, okay,
Hmm.
making a khichdi of it.
Yeah,
But that khichdi not necessarily would be tasty, right?
true.
So if you really want to have a continuum school and if you want to really stick to it, uh, there are challenges in having an MYP school. The biggest challenge would be getting trained teachers. So the professional development of becoming an MYP teacher is rigorous. You need to have a very experienced or knowledgeable coordinator who can then be a pedagogical leader and train the other teachers. Because the main challenge that I feel for running an MYP program is getting teachers who understand the program. Because the first year you teach the MYP, it's like, what hit me? You feel that way. And in the second year as a teacher, you feel, oh, now I understand some part of ATLs, the objectives, the assessments, I do understand. And the third year you are a little comfortable because by that time you have created your network, and you have contacted other teachers and trying, if you are a passionate teacher, then you would want to also learn, right? You are not just sitting over here that school will send me for PD and then I will learn. That doesn't happen. So the teacher is very passionate, the teacher learns, and then you feel that, okay, the third year I'm a little confident. So that is the whole, life of how you start with the MYP. Now, before I plunge into MYP with all my teachers, it's a good idea that I take it slowly if it is an IGCSE school. So the last couple of years, we have been working over here, though we have the IGCSE curriculum, because see, the negative part, or I wouldn't say negative, but still, the cons of MYP would be that the curriculum is not given to you, right? The teachers decide and they try to frame the curriculum, and not everyone is a curriculum designer, right? So you need to sit and pick and think, okay, now what all topics do I teach, and at what level will I teach? So if you have those experienced teachers who can also, who also have that knack of designing a curriculum, then you're welcome. You do the MYP, you will flourish and you will be very well. Okay, but with the IGCSE, there is an advantage because you have your curriculum at least. Okay, you have your learning outcomes, and then if you focus on the assessment and the methodology, then everything fits in well. So when I was with other two schools where MYP and IGCSE were running parallelly at the same time, the advantage was that I had the curriculum content of IGCSE and I ran the methodology and the assessments of MYP. So we made a khichdi and we tried to make a really good khichdi, but not everybody would be, efficient in doing that. So it is quite, difficult. But with the DP, um, it is, structured. You have your subject guide. Every teacher has to be trained in the subject that he or she is teaching. So there is no, and everybody understands the assessment very well. It takes some time to understand assessments in the MYP. It's not easy. The objectives, the strands of the objectives, it can be quite, the teachers can be a little scared, whether I'm doing it right or wrong. Okay, and then whether this is correct, whether the strands are correct. So all these kinds of things are there while doing the MYP. Whereas in IGCSE, you have your syllabus, you have your weightage of each paper, you have past papers to refer to. Okay, so that is the ease of running the Cambridge curriculum. But if you can teach those skills of the MYP and have the curriculum of the IGCSE, you can run a good program in a school. So you could, prepare them for the diploma program.
Thanks a lot. Ms. Priyanka, one last question before we actually, there might be two last questions actually, but I'll have one for you. Something that comes across to my mind and hence from a parent to another parent. Does it really weigh on your mind that your child should be having multiple checkpoints, we used to have two board examinations in the country, all of us preparing all through our life to do really well, and a lot of times our entire life was structured around how well we performed. And then there were a few years back, there was an eighth board examination also. There have been murmurs to have a fifth board examination as well. I don't think we will end up, at all in these debates and discussions on how many board examinations should have happened. But, in your mind as a parent, do you feel that your child should actually be, checked up on multiple times during his schooling life, or do you feel that it is only that one point at the 12th grade that he should essentially be appearing for his external examinations? What are your thoughts on that as a parent?
Oh, like having been in this system myself, just checking somebody at two levels and giving a very, very big importance to those numbers that you got in 10th and 12th is a little like, it could be my bad day on that day, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that I will, I have any less capability to be successful. And I have seen multiple cases where, people who have got very good marks in 12th, but when they come and join a job, they fail.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
then, they are in a mentality, okay, this is my task. But in job, there is never, this is my task. Anything can be your task, and it could be like, things change overnight. So I feel that, I would not give too much importance to, just that one checkpoint or two checkpoint. What is more important for me is what kind of learning he is getting, what kind of personality is being shaped up, and is that personality in line with, what life is all about after 12, after 12, and after,
Yeah.
once you are, maybe you get married and things change. And I think people need to have those capabilities which are more about adaptability to new things, which are more about survival, which are more about, just making good in any situation that is given to you. I think those skills are way more important than, just, a few checkpoints. And I think the way these skills and the way teaching is about in IB curriculum, I really like that. And I really like, the way, in DY Patil, the way they are teaching him different things, because it's less about, just that one checkpoint. It's more about what did I learn today? And it's a continuous inquiry mode that, tomorrow something new and exciting will come again. And that is how I think, that is a right life skill that he is getting, and not just, that one 10th board or 12th board, because, it doesn't really matter. We all know that.
So true. Given the emphasis on skills, the emphasis on continuous learning, the learning itself, it is certainly not a subjective based learning, but a concept theme based learning. Do you feel at some point, as the head of a very premier organization institution, you would consider kids right out of the 12th standard to be working with you instead of then going through 4 or 5 years of more formal education as well? Do you think our schools are already doing enough? Deva Patil International School is already doing enough to skill the child and make them so knowledgeable that they would be uh, uh, I would hate to use the word job ready, but they would be world ready after the 12th itself, instead of trying to invest another 5, 7 years in order to start earning, if I could say that.
Yeah, in
We
fact,
take
like,
someone right out of their 12th grade, as long as they're 18 years of age, obviously, the legal age to be working.
yeah, so whether it is 12th or, see, earlier in Lehman Brothers and then in Nomura, we used to have this policy that we only hire from IIM, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, not even,
Right.
other IIMs there.
Mm.
But then, what we found was it's not just, that label that we need. And then I was the first one to get it a little changed. And we did hire people from out of their graduation. So no, out of 12th, we haven't tried yet, but
Yeah.
out of graduation, we did. And there again, we saw few of them were actually more successful compared to the people at IIM. And the reason for that was not just education or MBA degree. And the reason we thought was, all these skills that we spoke about.
Yeah.
So right now what happens is these skills are more like, some children have it, some children do not have it. The school does not teach them, like in the typical environment where you are in CBSE and all. So it's more like, some children will just have it and some children may not have it. Whereas IB curriculum is designed so that all children get exposure to this, all children get an environment in which these skills develop. So whether it is 12th or after graduation, I think that is still to be discussed. But yes, I feel like, there could be certain roles which could be open for children if they have the right skill set. It is definitely a possibility.
Wonderful, great. I already see, why I even asked that question is that, as much of a knowledge that I have, my peers have about space exploration, NASA, SpaceX, more deep information about rovers and planets. My 6-year-old child already has that, and a curiosity which often beats. It's not merely a curiosity out of trying to just watch something, but it is a curiosity. He writes in emails across to NASA, inquiring what questions, which I clearly know is the effort that the teachers have been putting in to grow that curiosity profile in him. And that's why I do feel that maybe, looking at he doing something as a vocation, uh, you know, 20 years down the line looks too far. It could very well be about 12 years down the line itself. Final question before we then go about answering a few questions that I use as a support. And all of us are now, discussing and talking about IB. A few months back, a very, very high profile parent walked up to me because it used to in turn counsels, millions of parents each year. But this particular parent, having known to me, walked up to me in my office and asked, Rohit, I want to change the school of my child. He's a very well endowed businessman, and said that the children were in a very good CBSE school. He said, I want to change the school. The school is not as good. What is the choice? It will be a CBSE. I said, why don't you consider IB? He said, नहीं मेरे को तो अपने बच्चों को बाहर नहीं भेजना है. I don't want to send my kids outside the country. Cecilia, this is a typical mindset out of India. I don't want to send my kids out of the country, and hence, why do I even need to look at IB as a curriculum? The universities might not accept, it's not necessary. I would consider IB only if it is sending my kids outside. There is a distinct advantage. We discussed that with Dr. Pratibha, we discussed that with Ms. Aisha as well. But do you really feel that we are belittling the entire curriculum by saying that it is meant only if you want to go abroad and not to really study in our own country and live in our own country as well? Any one of you could start off this panel answer. Go ahead, Dr. Pratibha.
I definitely think that IB children are doing well in Indian universities, and all of Indian universities accept the IB. So
Yeah.
there is a first myth is that, oh, it'll be difficult to get an admission. There are entrance tests, everybody has to take them. There are marks, everybody has to get them. Unfortunately, though, we don't believe that marks is the right way to judge a child, but yes, so far the Indian system is dominated by marks. If you look at the traditional universities, Mumbai, Pune, Delhi University, but the non-traditional universities are giving more importance to the entrance test, to interviewing, and to enabling the student to show that they are research driven. They are more aware of different perspectives, especially places like Ashoka, OP Jindal, Kriya, Flame. They are very interview based, and there is definitely an edge that the IB student gets to the table, because he doesn't have to be coached, in the right way. He doesn't have to be coached for the entrance exam. He's a natural, he has the perspectives, and they just flow in naturally into the universities, and they are doing extremely well. So I think the India itself is also changing, and some of the IB alums are the people who are designing the new curriculums at university level also. So there is a continuation of the same research driven and interdisciplinary thought process, which now even the universities are accepting and welcoming. So they are absolutely a good fit to study anywhere in India and anywhere abroad. So literally, they are citizens of the planet, and they can put their finger on, oh, I want to study in Netherlands, I want to study in Baroda, I want to study in Bangalore, I want to study in France, and they fit in extremely well.
I think, Mr. Rohit, if I understand your question properly, you're trying to raise the concern of parents that children are going to want to go abroad to study and not stay home, right? Did I understand
it is about the parents' worry that
they're not going to stay home.
They don't want to send the child outside the country.
Yes. Funnily, we have the same, notion in Nepal, but then again, there aren't that many IB schools. So I can really say that it's not really against IB schools. In Nepal, they have this notion against schools that charge beyond certain fee structure, like a little bit of an exclusive school in that sense, financially. They say that we prepare children to just go abroad. Again, now that's a myth, I would say. It's about the values. Sometimes it is internal family values or maybe schools values in some cases, but also we do have to bear in mind that we are in a globalized society, and children see about, learn, hear, and watch so many movies, watch YouTube videos and hear about life in the US, life in UK, life in, Australia, and they want to explore, and there's nothing wrong in wanting to explore. But I think most of it also boils down to the values. And I think, IB is one of the last schools that we should be worried about having children not value the roots. Because, as I mentioned earlier as well, our children really, truly, IB students are taught to assess what the local needs are. They are taught to see what they have around them and how can they make a change in the society. I have students who graduated out of my 10th grade and they've started their own NGOs and have given jobs to over 20, 30, 40 people. Because, in the process of learning, they go and they look at the local needs. And in that process, they decide to take certain action. And that's the IB way of teaching and learning. And, these children are very sensitive to the needs of the society. So I don't really see going abroad and studying abroad as a negative thing. It's probably just as a result of, them seeing things in the society and they want to explore things. And there's nothing wrong with exploring and then coming back and then giving back to your society and contributing to your society. I mean, even I studied abroad. I went to the US, I went to UK, and then I'm back in Nepal. Now I started my, the first IB PYP World School, the first IB MYP World School in Nepal. So, it's something I don't think we have to be worried about. And IB schools last the least of all, because at the very root of it, very heart of it, is to understand your local context and to respect your local context.
Right. Ms. Cecilia, please go ahead.
And one of the beauties that the IB has is since they are little, like for example, in grade 5, they have to work in their exhibition and then they move to the personal project. And those are things that they take locally. They can think globally, but they bring it locally. And I was in India for 3 years. And I think the experience that I had with those kids, when they were able to identify what are the needs that their own society has and how they can help to fix those things without having to go abroad, knowing what is happening around the world, but being able to bring it down when they are 10, 11 years old is something that is just helping them to bring that consciousness to themselves. Like somebody else said, it's something that they're gonna bring back to the community. It's not something going abroad is something that is helping us to see that yes, this is the world that we live. This is our home for all of us. But at the same time, you can go back to where you are and you can do things from where you are without having the need to go across the sea or having to live in another country. So that's something that comes to you, to the person that you are, and you can start applying those things right there where you are, in grade 1, in grade 3, in grade 10, in grade 12, and for the rest of your life. So that's, I think that I hope it's not a concern, because that's something that I learned from India, especially, is that they celebrate diversity. You have such a big diversity, and everybody lives in such a wonderful communion that it's just to be celebrated. There are things that you can apply in the country that everybody in the world, as citizens of the world, we should learn from. So I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Thanks a lot.
Also, I would like to add one aspect of the parent thinking. So now, if as a parent you are very sure that you want to do MBBS in India, okay, and you want to do engineering, IIT, PACE, and all that in India, then you should be very clear then that maybe IB is not your pathway, maybe, because there are examples where students have gone into IIT doing the IB, okay, but then maybe the child took a gap year. You don't know. So you have to get that clear with the help of the college counselor. So very, very important is when you're deciding your curriculum. Over here at DY Patil International School, we have Miss Sonam and we have Dr. Pratibha Jain, who help our students right from grade 8. From grade 8, they guide them to decide, okay, what are you looking at in your next few years? Are you looking at going abroad? Are you looking at continuing in India? If in India, what subjects are you looking at? So that guidance is provided from the school by the career counselors. So the parents should be very clear about what they want. And if you are going to get your student into IB school, you want the students to think about themselves, right? You are not going to force your aspirations on your kids, right? So I am very clear with that, because when I put my child in an IB school, I knew that I have to be just hands off. It is his life. He will decide what he has to study. And if he has to do very well in the IBDP program, then you have to choose subjects that you are passionate about as a student. I cannot say, Norbu, go study mathematics HL, when I know that he struggles in mathematics and he's very poor. So of course he would take a lower level of mathematics. So I think you should also give some, the credibility to your child to do those subjects. Of course, I'm not saying that the child is, very mature and can take good decisions, but then that is why we have career counselors like Dr. Pratibha Jain and Sonam, who are experienced and who can guide those students and the family. So it is a family talk. It is the mother, the father, the child, and the career counselor and the school, the DP coordinator, will sit together and then look at where the child wants to go. It's not that, okay, if it is medical, then I would say, if you're going to say I want to do 7 subjects and do medical in uh, IB, then I myself as a coordinator, if I were the coordinator, I would say, please go do CBSE, don't do IB, because it is too much to do 7 subjects, 4 subjects in HL. It is not advised. So that would be my take on it, about the apprehension. And if I'm looking at the past statistics, there are so many students who have stayed back in India and who are studying in Indian universities and not going abroad. We have Miss Dr. Pratibha Jain to support this, because she would have seen so many students and would have guided them to get the university admissions.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that. There is a question on the chat box where parents are saying that does IB give enough time to do Indian entrances? Yes, for sure. And a lot of the Indian universities are now accepting the SAT. So we try and encourage students to take the SAT in the 11th or the first IBDP year 1, so that that is accepted by many engineering schools, by a lot of, say, NMIMS, in place of their local entrance exams. So the IBDP student can take and is very well prepared to take the entrance exams. And so if we sit with each parent, it's not a one hat fit all, with each parent to understand their aspirations and their vision for their child. And if it's India and other countries, that's also fine. Student can keep many choices open and take a decision at the end of 12th when he gets all the admits. And we are very happy to support Indian applications. I think that's been a concern. I was reading the Q&As and the chat, and compatibility with India has been the concern. The answer is a resounding yes, except, as Ms. Ashika says, for medicine.
Sure. I think we've got 2 last open questions right now. One happens to be, if I choose IB, will my child have time to study for the entrance test of Indian universities? While Dr. Pratibha has already answered that to an extent, Ms. Ashika, you could go ahead answering that to the parent satisfaction as well. The question is, if I choose IB, will my child have the time to study for the entrance test of Indian universities?
Yeah, like Dr. Pratibha Jain said, that yes, they would have time to study for the entrance exams. Of course, in fact, last year we have had a student who was doing the IBDP and who was also preparing herself for the entrance exam for the engineering. She was doing that, and we did tell her, as a school, we said that, okay, you can come at 8:30 or 8:45 instead of 8:20, understanding that the student is preparing for the entrance exam. So yes, a student has done that.
Just to highlight, as well as Dr. Ashok had mentioned, Dr. Pratibha works as a counselor for DY Patil International School. The kids are attached to the counselor. This is for the parents, that the kids are attached to a counselor, and all of such queries and assistance in preparation, not preparing them, but assistance in preparation, is something that the school and the college counselors continue to do to ensure that the child chooses what they really like as a college, as a board, as an entrance examination as well. The second question is, if I don't want to go abroad after IB, which has been our overwhelming question and the sentiment. What are my options in India as IB percentage is much lower compared to other boards? Why this question comes up, I'm sure all of you know that CBSE and ICSE have a 100-mark examination, IB has a 45 one, and also the grading that happens across. So if you could help answer that is IB percentage much lower? I think what we're missing out is the normalization of the scores that universities do. But please go ahead, Dr. Pratibha, answer that question.
Yeah, so the IB actually generates an Indian mark sheet based on the last internal exam of the school. And there is a myth that IB children don't score. I find the children are really brilliant, and it's about being able to what should I say, analyze a problem and solve it, which is their strength. And now a lot of the new age universities are adding entrance tests, which are, if you say the SAT or there, it's a analytical aptitude test. And there the IB children, they don't need really prep because they do well. They are analytical thinkers from day one. And the most tests are a combination of verbal thought and critical thinking, quantitative reasoning, and just logical thinking. And all four skills are developed in an IB student from day one. So they are quite good at the entrance tests. And now the IB generates an Indian mark sheet, and it converts the IB point grade system to the Indian mark sheet as a standardized mark sheet, which is, I mean, I don't see them. If a student works hard, they're quite capable of getting the marks, and it is quite equivalent or comparable with the Indian boards. And we've really had no problem in securing admissions at wherever the student wants to go. But of course, he has to work hard. He can't say, look, I've got a 28 on 42 and I want to go to a college who wants a 95. But if you work hard and you get your plus 40, you will get there.
Wonderful. One question to this is coming in from our Facebook in a live interaction that, and then this goes to specifically to Ms. Priyanka, but feel free for everyone to answer. What is the parent's involvement in the learner profile of the child? How much is the parent involved while the child's learning happens in an IB school? I could answer that myself, but I would want that to be answered by Ms. Priyanka and all of you.
So I would say that in their assignments and also like, whatever they keep doing, because as it was mentioned on this discussion as well, that children are not just limited in their thinking when they are in the study room, but they're also like, comparing it to various things that are happening in their real life. Like very good example of friction was given. So all those things, because these things happen in real life. So you get to know what the child is learning in the class as well. So and hence you can talk to him about, okay, then what this, and like, so I think parents involvement is a lot, and more so in a more interesting way, I would say, not just for learning it by rote. And in fact, like, I think they are quite good critical thinkers as well. And as you mentioned, that these days, because of technology, they keep on watching various videos. Like yesterday's example, I was telling him to learn Hindi matras, and he was like, do you know Bill Gates? I said, yeah, of course I know Bill Gates. His Hindi is same as mine. So, so, don't you
Yeah,
worry about me. I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I think the engagement of parents, and this I speak as a parent, that the engagement of the parent with the child also has increased, significantly. I find myself learning more. I find myself engaging with my child in education more in comparison to what I would have usually done, or my parents would have done with me. And I find it that the bond between the parent and the child is increasing, because the involvement, it is not merely about the academic aspect. It is about a whole lot of activities that IB curriculum does, and which invariably the child reaches out to us as parents, and our involvement in the learning is even more. No doubt the learning has been happening at home over the last 8 to 10 months, and hence our involvement with the child has increased significantly. But on the whole as well, I think it does give parenting a very different dimension, learning in an IB school as well. I thought I could wrap it up, but I have a couple of more questions that are coming in. Couple of them, which I feel we should be answering that as well. These are coming in from one parent, Ms. Rashmi, who's asked that how is the evaluation and grading in IB, MYP, or IB diploma? Uh, Along with that, does IB has textbooks as reference for learners? That's one question. There is another question which is a little similar on the evaluation front, and that happens to be how does a child cope when he does a PYP and then moves into an IGCSE or a CBSE for that matter, and eventually goes to a DP? There is disruptive curriculum learning, teacher, different styles of teachers who are coming into play. How smoothly does schools tide over this? How can a parent tide over this? Because Ms. Aisha, I think we will accept this fact that a very large number of schools which are international curriculum in nature in India start off with PYP, have a little bit of a khichdi in the middle years program, in the Cambridge middle primary programs, move to IGCSE and move to DP again. And from an outside perspective, it looks to be a little khichdi, as you rightly said. But if you could, and this is something that happens in other Asian schools as well. It's not merely in India. It happens across in Singapore. It happens across in Malaysia, in Philippines as well. That schools happen to follow this pattern across of following the PYP, the middle years, plus the IGCSE, and then the DP as well. So if you could answer the evaluation and the grading in IBP, MYP, IBDP, along with this particular question as well on schools and the children handling this problem.
So, Pravina, you would want to go with the evaluation and this of MYP?
Sure. Well, with the IB evaluation, IB MYP evaluation, we have formative assessments that take place. And then at the end of each unit, they have summative assessment task, and they're graded on the basis of their summative assessment. But then at the end of the school year, the teacher looks at all the summative assessments they've done, and they don't do an average, but they actually do a look at how the child has been performing, and gives a certain grade based on a certain grading scale that they're supposed to give to the child.
So in contrast, in the IGCSE, but I would say that there are similarities because we do have formative assessments also. So the only difference is that we give a percentage to the formative assessment and the summative assessment. So we would say that formative assessment will be 30% of the total weightage of the final assessment, and the end of semester examination would be 70% weightage. Now, in the formative assessments, we would be having cycle tests, we would be having projects, we would be having oral presentations, okay, different types of assessments that usually the MYP schools give, the different types of assessments, okay, forms of assessments. So we do have that. So the only difference, I think, would be the weightages that we give in terms of how the final grade comes out. Otherwise, if you look at assessments, we do formative assessments, we do summative assessments, they get graded. The difference between the curriculum would be that we have a definite syllabus to follow. So we teach it, but we make sure that they also get the skills by doing the activity. So if it is science, we would give them lab activities to do, where if you compare it with the MYP, we would look at criteria B and C in science, which are the lab skills. If we are talking about research, we could also give project works as a part of research to our students in sciences or in the other subjects. So we try to maintain the skills that the students come up with from the PYP and continue it with the MYP, with the IGCSE in the middle school. So now there is no need for us as a school, as an IGCSE or a Cambridge school, to have an ATL sequence in the middle school. But then we know that we are an IB continuum school. We have the PYP, we have the DP. So we have to continue with the skills, right, in the middle school as well. So as even though we are an IGCSE or a Cambridge school, we have our ATL skills mapped up in the middle school as well. So this is how we are taking care of the skills and the IB attitudes and the learner profile that are there in the PYP and in the DP, but are missing in the IGCSE. See, if you look at IGCSE, they also have their attributes. They also have who is an inquirer, who is a critical thinker. They do have. It's not that they are not there, but then the terminologies are different. Whatever the terminologies, ultimately we are looking at creating students who have creativity, who have critical thinking skills, who are able to communicate and who are able to collaborate and work with each other. So we ensure that these are maintained even in the IGCSE or in the middle school as they study in the school.
Well, thanks a lot. This shall now be the last question, and I know it will be a very quick answer from us, Shekhar. The user has asked which schools are really good in Mumbai who are following authentic IB curriculum.
So
Um,
I would
my
say,
vote
of
is
course,
for
DY
DY
Patil.
Patil.
They're
My
all
vote,
authentic.
Of course, I would say DY Patil International
yes,
School.
it
Yeah.
And
is
I
not
would agree
merely
with her.
endorsing your own school, but it is actually saying what's correct and what's right. And
Yeah,
I,
because see, what is unique about DY Patil as an IB school is that good teachers make good schools. I believe in that, truly believe in that. So we can say we have good teachers. Why? Because we have a rigorous professional development plan. Not only those compulsory mandatory PD sessions we give our teachers, in additional to that we also give other workshops like blended learning. It was not necessary for my teacher to do blended learning workshop, but my primary and my secondary teachers did that workshop. The unconference 2.0 that we had, where we gave opportunities for our own teachers to facilitate. So who gives those opportunities?
yeah.
I don't see other schools doing that. We have done that at our school. So we are making our teachers, from good to better. So we truly believe in that. And at the same time, the pillars of IB education, that is skill-based learning, concept-based learning, inquiry-based learning, we make sure that the teachers know about these when they are, driving those programs at our school. And Mrs. Priyanka Goyal is there to see her child studies in our school.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, many thanks for all of you to be joining in today. Many thanks for our attendees as well to be joining on a Sunday evening and very patiently and intently engaging with us for this particular webinar. Thanks to the entire Deva Patil International School Worli's team. I've been asked to communicate to everyone that the warm team that it is, they would want to welcome each one of you, would want to then have a more comprehensive understanding of the IB curriculum and how it gets imparted by the Deva Patil International School in Worli. So feel free to reach out to either Etustoke or to them directly in order to set up your time for an engagement. And I hope that on another occasion, another date, on another topic, we all could get together and help the users across the country in India, the parents on some another interesting topic. Thanks a lot. Have a lovely evening ahead and a wonderful
Thank you.
2020.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you. And
having us. Thank
namaste.
you.